It all began on a warm summer morning outside the Pasadena Civic Auditorium. People from around the world lined up to audition, holding guitars, microphones, props, or simply their hopes. In the middle of the crowd stood a quiet young man from Cebu, wearing a simple leather jacket, old jeans, and a faint nervous smile. His name was Adrian, a 23-year-old vocalist who grew up listening to Elvis Presley through an old cassette player his grandfather kept in a drawer. He never had formal training, never owned high-end equipment, and never imagined he would one day stand before the world's toughest judges. But what he did have was a story carved from struggle, sacrifice, and the voice of a man who never gave up. As he waited backstage, the staff asked him questions. "Where are you from?" they asked. "I'm from the Philippines," he answered proudly. "What brought you to AGT?" He hesitated. "I want to make my grandfather proud," he said softly. "He used to tell me that Elvis had a soul in his voice. And he said, maybe I had that too." Adrian swallowed hard, remembering the man who raised him. His grandfather had passed away 2 years earlier, but his words stayed with him every time Adrian sang. When the stage manager called his name, Adrian stepped into the spotlight. The room felt enormous, brighter and louder than anything he had experienced. Thousands of faces filled the seats. But his eyes gravitated immediately toward the judges' table: Simon Cowell, Sofia Vergara, Heidi Klum, and Howie Mandel. Adrian inhaled deeply, trying to steady the shaking in his hands. He wasn't used to crowds. He wasn't used to microphones this fancy. He wasn't even used to being noticed. But today, he had no choice but to be brave. "Hello," Simon said, leaning forward. "What's your name?" "My name is Adrian," he replied. "And where are you from?" Simon asked, already studying him with curiosity. "I'm from the Philippines," he said with a nervous smile. "I came here to make someone proud." Something about Adrian's tone caught Simon's attention. It wasn't the words, it was the sincerity behind them. "Who?" Simon asked. "My grandfather," Adrian said. His voice cracked slightly. "He was the one who taught me how to sing. He always said I should never be afraid to show who I am." The audience softened. The judges leaned in. This wasn't just another audition. This was a young man carrying the weight of memories, pressure, and dreams all at once. "What will you be singing?" Simon asked. Adrian held onto the microphone a bit tighter. "A song by Elvis Presley," he said. "It's the song my grandfather used to play every morning." Simon raised an eyebrow. "Elvis, that's a big name to take on," he said. "Let's see what you've got." The music started. A soft guitar intro, the kind that instantly fills a room with nostalgia. Adrian closed his eyes, letting the melody settle into his mind. Then he began to sing. The first note that left his lips was warm, deep, and breathtakingly smooth, a tone so reminiscent of Elvis that the audience gasped instantly. But it wasn't an imitation. It was something more. It was Elvis filtered through a young Filipino voice, raw and emotional, like decades of pain and love woven into every word. 10 seconds into the song, Simon suddenly raised his hand. "Stop," he said. The room froze. The music stopped. Adrian's heart dropped. His breath caught in his throat. He opened his eyes wide, panic spreading across his face. He looked like someone who had been punched in the gut. His worst fear, rejection, had come true before he had even begun. The audience murmured. The other judges exchanged confused glances. Adrian swallowed hard, thinking, I flew across the world for this, and it's over in 10 seconds. Simon leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. Then, slowly, he spoke. That isn't the right song, he said. The audience gasped again. Adrian blinked rapidly, unsure of what to say. I can't sing another song, he stammered, feeling the sting of humiliation pressing against his chest. Simon nodded. I stopped you because I think you have something special. But that song choice isn't showing it. Do you have something that lets your voice shine? Something emotional, something that means something to you? Adrian stood silent for a moment. His grandfather's words echoed in his head. Sing from your soul, he used to say. Not to impress, not to imitate, but to express. Yes, Adrian said softly. I have one. Then let's hear that, Simon said. The new music began, a slower, more emotional melody. This wasn't Elvis. This wasn't for show. This was a ballad from his childhood, a Filipino love song his grandfather sang when life was too hard to speak. The first words rolled out of Adrian like a confession, delicate but full of power. The entire theater quieted as though holding one collective breath. His voice climbed into the room, swelling with warmth and heartbreak. It wasn't just singing, it was storytelling. Every line felt like a memory. Every note felt like a goodbye and a promise at the same time. The deeper he went, the stronger he became. His fear disappeared. His shaking stopped. He wasn't on a stage anymore. He was home. He was with his grandfather. Halfway through the performance, something extraordinary happened. Simon, the man known for critiques sharper than blades, leaned forward, his face soft, his eyes reflecting something no one expected, emotion. He whispered something to Howie, and Howie nodded, both watching Adrian with awe. As Adrian soared into the final notes, his voice cracked beautifully, not from weakness, but from overflowing feeling. It was the kind of crack that makes people cry. The kind that makes everything real. He finished the last note with his hand over his heart, tears threatening to fall. For a moment, no one moved. Then the audience stood, every single person, erupting into cheers so loud they echoed through the entire building. Adrian covered his face, overwhelmed, shaking as he tried to process what was happening. The judges stood too. Heidi was smiling warmly. Sophia had tears forming in her eyes. Howie clapped with so much energy it looked like he was trying to shake the stage. And Simon just stared at him. When the applause finally settled, Simon took a deep breath. "Adrian," he said, "when I stopped you earlier, it was because I sensed something. I didn't want to hear Elvis. I wanted to hear you. And what we just witnessed was not a performance. It was a moment, a real moment. You poured your heart into that song and it reached every single one of us." Adrian's tears finally fell. He couldn't speak. He could barely even breathe. Simon continued, "You have something incredibly rare, a voice that carries emotion and truth. And I think your grandfather would be very proud of you." At those words, Adrian broke down, wiping his tears with trembling hands. Simon glanced at the golden buzzer. The audience sensed what was coming. Whispers spread like wildfire. "Do it," someone yelled. "Give him the buzzer," another shouted. Simon looked back at Adrian, then at the judges, then at the audience. He pressed the button. The golden buzzer burst into a storm of gold raining from above, covering the entire stage. Adrian fell to his knees, hands shaking, as the confetti fell around him like blessings descending from the heavens. The theater exploded. The judges smiled. Simon walked onto the stage, something he rarely does. He placed a hand on Adrian's shoulder and said, "This wasn't just a good audition. This was one of the best this season." Adrian couldn't speak. He simply nodded, overwhelmed, crying, laughing, shaking, everything at once. The staff rushed in. The judges clapped behind him. The gold shimmered everywhere. Backstage, Adrian hugged his chest tightly, whispering, "Lolo, I did it." He knew somewhere, somehow, his grandfather was watching. The producers interviewed him after the audition. "What are you feeling right now?" they asked. "I feel like everything I've been through brought me to this moment," he said. "Growing up, we didn't have much. I used to sing on the street. I used to dream inside a small house with no air conditioning and a leaking roof. But my grandfather always said that life is bigger than the walls around you. I think I finally understand what he meant." His story spread across social media instantly. Clips of his audition were posted online within hours. Comments flooded in from around the world. "This is the soul of Elvis reborn. This kid sings with his heart. Filipino pride." Simon stopping him was the best thing that happened. Reporters began calling him the Filipino Elvis with the golden heart. Days turned into weeks as the audition continued to go viral. Adrian was invited to radio shows, online interviews, and reaction channels. Even famous musicians praised him for his authenticity and emotional delivery. But fame didn't change him. He remained humble, soft-spoken, always quick to mention his grandfather, his family, and the people back home supporting him. When the live shows finally arrived, he stepped onto the stage wearing the same old jacket, the one he refused to replace because his grandfather had once told him he looked like a star in it. "You ready?" the stagehand asked. Adrian nodded. "I think so." His live performance was even more powerful than his audition. He mixed Elvis's richness with modern soul, creating a sound that felt nostalgic and new at the same time. The judges praised him. The audience screamed for him. And once again, Simon told him, "You are one of the most special singers we've had." He didn't win the entire show, but he won something bigger. He won recognition. He won respect. He won millions of hearts. And most importantly, he fulfilled a promise. When Adrian returned home to the Philippines after the season ended, he visited his grandfather's resting place. He placed a small golden confetti star on the stone, letting it glimmer under the sunlight. "Thank you for believing in me," he whispered. A gentle breeze passed by, brushing his cheek like a warm memory. Adrian smiled. He had come a long way from the boy who sang on the streets with nothing but a cassette player and a dream. And now, he stood tall, proud, and ready for whatever came next. Today, Adrian continues to sing at concerts, charity events, and festivals. His voice inspires countless young singers who see themselves in his journey. He reminds the world that greatness doesn't come from perfection, it comes from passion, vulnerability, and the courage to be yourself. And it all started with 10 seconds. 10 seconds that nearly ended everything. 10 seconds that turned into a lifetime moment. 10 seconds that proved sometimes you must be stopped so you can be truly seen. Thank you for watching this powerful story. If you want more emotional AGT moments, more inspiring journeys, and more voices that deserve to be heard, make sure to subscribe, like, and share this video with someone who needs a reminder that dreams don't expire. They wait patiently for the right moment. And today's story was the moment for the Filipino Elvis who turned doubt into destiny.